Hi, I'm Chris. I'm sitting here in Sarah Ann, my little 18-foot classic. I got to thinking about why I'm producing these videos on YouTube. Well, let me tell you a brief story. Back in 2011, I had a heart attack. It was quite serious. I ended up with a quadruple heart bypass, and I'm very fortunate to be a survivor. The long and tough recovery that I had from that heart attack, in 2018, my wife was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I ended up curled up in a fetal position on the couch, and I could hardly function. One day I was lying on the couch and I suddenly remembered I had a little tiny wooden boat, a 12-foot clinker-built hue and pine dinghy that I'd built back in my early 20s, and she'd been sitting in the garage for some years, hardly been used. I went out to the garage, pulled the covers off Sarah Ann, packed her all up, and headed up the Great Sandy Strait. Well, it turned out to be the adventure of a lifetime. So there I was, this silly old fart in an Akubra hat, running up the Great Sandy Strait with 25 knots of wind in my sails. I was in a boat that was probably too small for the purpose, and there's quite a fetch across there, and it was quite exciting. Fortunately, I had the iPhone out and I recorded the journey, and then when I came back I decided to create some videos. This was an amazing journey. Blustery wind and choppy seas, followed by total serenity in the little sheltered coves up the western side of Fraser Island. There were dingoes, there were goannas, there was every imaginable form of insect life. And then after 4 or 5 days of fighting the elements in the wilderness, I came back to the office and I started editing the videos. As I was producing the videos, I found that I was smiling. I found that an inner glow had returned, something that I hadn't experienced for some time. I published the videos, a lot of people watched them, and a lot of people liked them. And so I thought, well, I might keep doing this. As much as I enjoyed the journey in a little wooden boat, I found that it was a little bit cramped and uncomfortable, and sleeping on shore amongst the midges and the mosquitoes wasn't really my idea of perfect. So I bought a slightly larger boat. This one was about 20 feet. It wasn't wood, it was fiberglass. I went on the journey of restoring my first boat, which I named Mozart. And then it was time for a slightly bigger boat. So I purchased a Sunmaid, which is still 20 feet, but it was much roomier and much heavier, and I was preparing her for some serious offshore cruising up to the Whitsundays. And then a young man had been down in Tasmania and purchased a little wooden boat, towed her up to Queensland, and I found myself with Sarah Ann, a little wooden boat again, and I could really tell that that was getting back to my true passion. So I sold the Sunmaid and spent the last year restoring Sarah Ann. And now I'm heading out on a new journey, taking Sarah Ann around Tasmania, where we now live, and exploring the sheltered coastal waterways of Tasmania's beautiful coastline. I'm glad that you can come on the journey with me, and I hope that I can encourage some others to get out there and get back into their sailing and revive their passion. I'm trying to create a community where we can engage and comment and perhaps connect through other social media platforms and encourage one another. It's not just about my story. I'm interested in your story. What's brought you to this point of life? What are the things that you've learned? What are your sailing experiences? Sailing is a parody of life in so many ways. I do look forward to an interesting series of adventures where you're very welcome to come along with me.